Hi Year 11, soon to be Year 12. My name's Miss Perham. Some of you might know me and some of you I'll be meeting in September. I'm the Key Stage 5 Coordinator of English at Davenant Foundation School, and today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the A-Level Literature course, giving you a little bit of a taster of what you might expect from English lessons and talking to you about the summer task. So hopefully you're going to find it useful. I'm going to share my screen now, so I should still appear in the corner somewhere so you can still see me, but you can also see the details of the slideshow as well. Now, let's begin. So, welcome to English at Davenant. Here you can see some images of the key text that we study at A-Level Literature, which I'll be talking to you about in a bit more detail shortly. But it's a real nice variety, some fantastic text there, some of which you might already be familiar with, but it's perfectly okay at this point if you are not. And here is a breakdown of those texts and how we study them. So the A-Level consists of 2 exams at the end of Year 13 and a non-exam assessment, which is a bit like coursework that you work on over a period of time rather than in exam conditions. So as you can see, one of the papers focuses on the genre of tragedy, which you may well have come across already in your GCSE studies. We studied Shakespeare play Othello, Death of a Salesman, which is an American play, and the poetry of John Keats in that exam. And then my personal favourite, the Elements of Political and Social Protest exam. And for that exam, we look at an unseen text. We also have the Handmaid's Tale, the Kite Runner, so 2 really fantastic novels, in my opinion, and the poetry of William Blake called Songs of Innocence and Experience. The coursework, or the NEA, the non-exam assessment, requires you to write about critical theory, link it to a literary text, and there you can choose your texts and choose your area of focus, so it gives you much more independence in terms of the texts and the ideas that you like to explore. So just wanted to share this with you as well, just think about why A-Level English can be useful in lots of different ways. As you can see here, there are lots of different fields that you can go into, either for your sort of further study, your degree, and indeed your career. So it's a great A-Level to have. Universities consider it highly, and it can lead you into all sorts of different directions. So I find it's a really useful subject for that variety. It doesn't limit you in terms of what you want to go on to in the future. So taster lesson today is going to hopefully, as I said, give you a little flavour, a little taste of what you might expect from English lessons and the kind of things we do and how we explore our texts. So today, what I'd like you to get out from this is to sort of practice forming your own interpretation of an unseen prose extract and use textual evidence to support your argument. So that's what we're going to aim to do during the session today. I'll be pausing it or asking you to pause the video at various points to complete tasks and see how you get on. So firstly, what is a dystopia? What would you expect from a literary text that is considered dystopian? So just pause the video here for a moment, have a think about that. It may be a term that you've never come across before and you're not sure about, which is perfectly fine. If you have heard of it, what do you associate with it? What do you think it might be? And again, if you were reading a dystopian novel, what elements might you expect from that? So if you could press pause just for a few minutes and reflect on those questions for me. Okay, hopefully you're back. So dystopia, an imagined state or society in which there is great suffering or injustice, typically one that is totalitarian or post-apocalyptic. Keyword there is imagined. So dystopian fiction is not set in the real world, and yet often it does comment on the real world through the imagined world, if that makes sense. And dystopian literature, a genre of fictional writing used to explore social and political structures in a dark nightmare world. So these dystopian worlds are never really a good place to be for the characters that we come across in them. The term dystopia is defined as a society characterised by poverty, squalor or oppression, and the theme is most commonly used in science fiction and speculative fiction genres. So again, not rooted in a reality. It's an alternate reality that is much worse than our real world, but perhaps a glimpse of a possible future so lessons to be learned there. So it's a fantastic genre and one that you will study when specifically you're looking at The Handmaid's Tale. And speaking of The Handmaid's Tale, we're going to be using that today. Actually, we're going to sort of balance two areas of the course. Really, one of the questions on the A-level exam requires you to respond to an unseen extract from a literary text. And today we're going to use The Handmaid's Tale as an unseen extract. Some of you may well have read it or seen the TV series, but we're going to treat this as if it is an unseen text. Although it will be a text, of course, that you study in detail in preparation for the exam. So a little bit of background first. The novel was first published in 1985. It is a dystopian novel which portrays the totalitarian society of Gilead, which has replaced the USA, where women's rights have been eroded. Handmaids exist solely for the purpose of reproduction, bearing children for elite couples. They are forbidden to work, vote, or read, and are given a name which includes that of the man with who they are reproducing. The narrator is called Offred or of Fred. Handmaids are only allowed to travel outside in pairs, and in this extract, Offred and Ofglen are on a shopping trip buying groceries for their household. So one of the only times they're really allowed to go out is to run errands. So in the exam for the unseen element, there will be a question where you have to create an argument, a thesis, a developed essay style response. So we're going to take a look at a typical question today. Explore the significance of individuality in this extract. So we're going to look at an extract shortly. Remember to include in your answer relevant detailed analysis of the ways that Atwood shapes meaning. So again, one of the key things about literature and our responses to literary texts is to consider the writer's methods, is to consider what they are doing and why they are doing it. Okay. So first thing to do when you're looking at an exam style question is think about keywords within that question. Here, of course, one of those keywords is individuality. So again, just pause for a moment and think about what individuality means to you. And how we might explore that within the given extract. So take time to reflect on the question before you start exploring the extract is a great piece of advice in terms of looking at exam style questions. Okay, so I'm going to show you the extract shortly. Feel free to pause the video so that you can read the extract in more detail if you need to. But as you read, track through the extract and highlight in one colour evidence that shows a lack of individuality, and in another colour evidence that shows individuality. So here is the extract that we're going to be looking at. A group of people is coming towards us. They're tourists from Japan, it looks like, a trade delegation perhaps, on a tour of the historical landmarks or out for local colour. They're diminutive and neatly turned out. Each has his or her smile. They look around bright-eyed, cocking their heads to one side like robins. They're very cheerful, aggressive, and I can't help staring. It's been a long time since I've seen skirts that short on women. The skirts reach just below the knee and the legs come out from beneath them, nearly naked in their thin stockings, blatant, the high-heeled shoes with their straps attached to their feet like delicate instruments of torture. The women teeter on their spiked feet as if on stilts but off balance. Their backs arch at the waist, thrusting the buttocks out. Their heads are uncovered and their hair too is exposed in all its darkness and sexuality. They wear lipstick, red, outlining the damp cavities of their mouths like scrawls on a washroom wall of the time before. I stop walking. Ofglen stops beside me, and I know that she too cannot take her eyes off these women. We are fascinated, but also repelled. They seem undressed. It has taken so little time to change our minds about things like this. Then I think, I used to dress like that. That was freedom. Westernized, they used to call it. The Japanese tourists come towards us, twittering, and we turn our heads away too late. Our faces have been seen. There's an interpreter in the standard blue suit and red patterned tie with the eye tie pin. He's the one who steps forward out of the group in front of us, out of our way. The tourists bunch behind him. One of them raises a camera. Excuse me, he says to both of us, politely enough. They're asking if they can take your picture. I look down at the sidewalk, shake my head for no. What they must see is the white wings only, a scrape of face, my chin and part of my mouth, not the eyes. I know better than to look at the interpreter in the face. Most of the interpreters are eyes, or so it is said. I also know better than to say yes. Modesty is invisibility, said Aunt Lydia. Never forget it. To be seen is to be, her voice trembled, penetrated. What you must be, girls, is impenetrable. She called us girls. Beside me, Offlin is also silent. She's tucked her red-gloved hands up into her sleeves to hide them. The interpreter turns back to the group, chatters at them in staccato. I know what he'll be saying. I know the line. He'll be telling them that women here have different customs, and that to stare at them through the lens of a camera is, for them, an experience of violation. Okay, so again, take a few minutes to pause the video so you can look at the extract in a bit more detail and have a think about that question, looking particularly at examples of individuality. Okay, so what you need to do when you're actually writing about a text, and of course a big part of the study of literature is indeed writing about text and producing developed essay style responses, and you can think about some of the skills you developed at GCSE to do this. So choose one of the points that you've identified in your analysis and write this up as an exam style point. So not a complete essay today, you'll be pleased to know, but to think about the things you may have been taught at GCSE to make clear points that focus on the question. Select relevant examples from the extract, analyse the language, the structure using terminology, and make connections to the contextual influences that you might be aware of. So again, I'll ask you just to press pause at this point and give it a go. Just a paragraph responding to the extract, thinking about the question, which I'll just remind you is explore the significance of individuality within the extract. Okay. Okay, hopefully you've had a chance to have a go at that. You've unpaused me and I'm back. And what I'm going to do now is show you what a good one, what a good one looks like. So this is the type of thing, the type of paragraph we'd aim to produce. In an exam response, we'd obviously produce a series of paragraphs that develop the argument further. But this gives us a good snapshot as to the types of things we might say about a text and how we might respond to it. So as we read this again, have a think about why this is a good response, what the student is showing through their response. Initially, Atwood presents the Japanese tourists as a group of people, and through the narrator Offred's perspective, she conforms to a somewhat stereotypical representation of this particular social group, Japanese tourists with cameras. They're diminutive and neatly turned out, each has his or her camera, his or her smile. The collective pronouns and the determiner each removes their individuality and identifies them only as a group of identical people. However, their individuality is alluded to through the juxtaposition of one collective with the other, the handmaids. Offred remarks, "It's been a long time since I've seen skirts that short on women." It is the freedom of the Japanese women to choose their own clothes and choose to display their legs that indicates their individuality and the difference from the handmaids. Okay, so again, key skills shown here, they are making specific references to the extract. They are showing a good understanding of the extract. They're identifying specific methods that the writer is using in order to convey that meaning to the reader. So a really great example of a good response there. Okay, final thing from me today is just to talk you through the summer tasks. Now, we have shared these elsewhere, I believe. You'll be getting those access to those on the website, but I am going to show you my screen now just to kind of talk you through them and remind you about them. Okay, so just bear with me a moment. Okay, so the summer homework for you, these are really important tasks that we expect you to sort of be ready to have to show us at the beginning of the lesson in September, your first lessons in September. And both of these tasks really important to sort of get a good grounding in where you're going to start. You're going to be starting in September with the tragedy texts. With Othello and with Death of a Salesman. And so all of your summer homework is rooted in those three texts. So the first task is a research task. In order to familiarise yourself with tragedy as a genre, you'll conduct your own research. And these are the key things that you need to find definitions for, these tragic terms. Some of them, of course, might be familiar to you. Some of them might be new terms. Which is absolutely fine. You should also give examples from tragedy that you know. So you may have studied Macbeth or Romeo and Juliet in Key Stage 4 or even Key Stage 3. So you might find examples, for example, of a moment of catharsis within Macbeth, and a hint that often comes towards the end of the tragedy. You then need to create a timeline of tragedy, showing the key features of the type of tragedy in no more than 5 bullet points. How does one form of tragedy influence the next? So think about how the genre has developed over time. So you've got bullet points there that sort of take you right from the beginnings of tragedy with Greek tragedy all the way to 20th century dramatic tragedy, of which Death of a Salesman that you're going to study is a good example. Okay. Number 2, to research the writers. One of the key things you've got to do in your responses and in your study is make contextual links. So find out about the lifetimes and work of William Shakespeare, Arthur Miller and John Keats. So they are our 3 writers for the tragedy texts. Produce a knowledge organiser, including images, headings and references to the sources that you used for your research. And then finally, preparatory reading. So at A-level, we do expect you to have read the text before we actually start to study them so that we can explore them in more depth and detail. So you will need to buy your own copy of the 2 plays, Death of a Salesman and Othello. Those are the 2 that you're starting with in September. You have specific ISBN numbers there, so you do need to get a particular edition and look for the publisher being correct as well, so that when we're looking at page numbers, you know what page number to refer to and it's not confusing. And then for those, what you need to do is complete reading logs to show your understanding. So to summarize each scene or each act, Death of a Salesman, for example, is only divided into 2 acts. So we'd expect your summary of those 2 acts to be rather detailed. Othello, the scenes in each act are broken up, so you can use that to divide up your knowledge. These should include a summary of each scene, key quotes, and any links to the genre of tragedy. So I think quite important actually to do task number 1 first, so that you've got a good grounding in the genre before you look at the text themselves. Okay, so quite a bit to do, but again, all of these tasks really useful in getting a head start really on what you're going to be starting in September. Okay. So that is it from me. I do hope that you have found this useful and you are, I'm going to come back to big screen now, you found this useful and you've got something out of it, that you've got a little bit of a taste of what our English lessons might be like. Of course, face-to-face teaching involves a lot more in the way of discussion and debate, which is one thing I love about particularly the study of A-level, the idea of different approaches, different opinions, different interpretations. And we really look forward to meeting you in September, and goodbye.